Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. And we have press, we have friends and supporters of my campaign, and we even have tourists from Germany. So welcome to them as well. Hello, I'm Lisa Brown, and I'm candidate for mayor of Spokane, the city I love. I'm wearing red today at City Hall because unfortunately I have to sound an alarm. The city's budget is seriously and structurally unbalanced. $8.5 million just this year alone. Second, the city's reserves and rainy day fund has been seriously depleted under the current administration, and now they are at dangerously low levels. For 3 years, Mayor Woodward has overspent the budgets she proposed and filled the gap with one-time funds. A flexible reserve fund of $28 million when she took office is now gone. The mayor is violating good government accounting practices and not complying with the city's own municipal code, which, as former council member Candace Mumm knows, has targets set for city's reserves and its rainy day fund. My estimate is the city is $50 million underneath those targets. That's right, $50 million below, at the same time that the city received over $80 million in ARPA, or American Recovery funds, and those have all been allocated. The mayor's failed to notify the public of this impending budget crisis and has failed to provide solutions that would create a balanced budget, despite being asked to do so by council members from Cathcart to Kinnear. Consequently, the city of Spokane is in the worst fiscal situation it has been in for decades. Mayor Woodward has dug us a deep hole, and she's still digging. Without a course correction, there could be many negative consequences. The city's bond rating could fall. It will be impossible to keep commitments to current service levels or collective bargaining contracts that have already been approved, much less take on needed infrastructure for neighborhoods that I'm hearing about as I knock on doors: streets, sidewalks, new fire stations at 5 Mile or in Latah Valley. We won't be able to respond effectively to the homelessness crisis that we all know is growing. And we won't be able to cope with the next economic downturn. And I can tell you as an economist, there will be another economic downturn. There always is. So right now, as we speak, they're in a session in which the Woodward administration is presenting another round of special budget ordinances to the council. Now that the reserve funds are dangerously low, the plan that she is suggesting is to draw on funds that have been built up for other purposes, so a diversion of other funds. Specifically, tonight's budget ordinance has a bit of bait and switch, so stay with me here. It moves funds from the Trent shelter to the police overtime, and then it moves funds from the real estate excise tax from that fund to the Trent shelter. The real estate excise tax, or REIT funds, are funds we can use for infrastructure, for streets, for repair, for investments in the future. But are they going for that? No. They're going to build bathrooms in the Trent shelter, a building that the city does not even own. This is classic robbing Peter to pay Paul. Furthermore, the administration has not shared with the public budget outlooks for 1 year or 5 years. I estimate that next year's deficit will be double digits, at least 12, perhaps 15 million. In general, when we're not in an economic downturn, we hope and expect city revenues to grow about 3% a year. With current service level commitments and current contracts that have been approved, city expenditures are growing 5 to 7% a year. This is a structural budget gap that obviously cannot be sustained. Now, I've been knocking on doors. Many households in Spokane, as you know, are struggling from paycheck to paycheck right now. They don't know how they're going to cope with rising rent or rising food costs. Spokane families can't keep spending more than their income month after month, and neither should the city. No Spokane business that's responsible would be run the way our city budget is currently being run. So today, I'm calling on Mayor Woodward to immediately release 1 year and 5 year budget outlooks so we can see what the situation really is. Produce a plan for a balanced budget and produce a plan for replenishing the city's reserve funds. In the Spokesman Review on Sunday, the mayor said we may need to do some city budget restructuring. Is that code for layoffs, utility rate increases, or tax increases? The public deserves an answer. First responders, city employees, we all deserve an answer, and we deserve it before the November election. As a legislator, I saw the consequences for the public of not having enough money in reserve, and that led to painful budget cuts and tax increases. That's why, as Senate Majority Leader, I worked with a Republican colleague in the Senate to propose and pass the state's constitutional rainy day fund. As an economist, I understand the cyclical nature of the economy and the opportunity costs of spending street funds and our precious reserves on other uses. As mayor, I will be transparent with you. I will publish updated budget projections on a quarterly basis. I will work for solutions to fulfill contracts that the city has committed to without layoffs. There are things we can do, such as bringing in state and federal funds, millions of dollars that were available for affordable housing that this administration left on the table. I'll be honest about service level costs. Hold departments that report to me accountable when they overspend year after year. And work with all city council members and the public on solutions that are fiscally responsible. Thank you very much for being here today, and I'm happy to take questions. I think I dropped somebody's mic. I apologize. Yes.
Yeah, when you say that you will hold departments accountable, what does that look like?
It starts in the very beginning with the budget that's presented to council. It needs to be a realistic budget, and then the department needs to live within the means of that budget. And specifically, I think that's what's been missing from the equation for the last 3 years. There's been original budgets passed, and then overspending, overspending, overspending. Then the council is asked to come in and pass these special budget ordinances to fill the gap. And so either the departments are not being managed effectively, or they're not projecting accurately or honestly what the true costs of that department really are.
Can the person, can you repeat the question that next time?
Yes, I will repeat the question next time. Any other questions? Yes.
So what does course correction look like? Do you anticipate budget cuts? Do you anticipate asking voters to approve the levy? How do you square this?
Well, the fact that you're asking me for a course correction is evidence that the current mayor has not provided a roadmap for the future. And I want to help provide that roadmap. One of the things I need is the budget projections. Like I said, having talked with former council members and budget analysts and looking at the city's website, which doesn't have all the things on it I need, I think that we're double-digit unbalanced next year. And a structural deficit will just continue to grow until you modify revenues or expenditures. So ideally, we locate additional revenues, as I mentioned, from state or federal funds, perhaps. It is possible that I will learn things as I dig deeper that give me more options. I know that Spokane wants tax increases to be a last resort because, as I said before, too many families are in a position where they just don't need one more thing that they have to worry about in balancing their own monthly budget. So that is still to come. And I would say that the appropriate process, just like it's done at the state level and at the national level, is the administration produces a plan, especially when you negotiate contracts. Produce a budget plan that pays for those contracts. Then the public gets to see it, the council gets to examine it, perhaps they have other ideas to put forward, and ultimately the council passes budgets and modifications to budgets. But it is incumbent on the administration to put forward a plan that we can all talk about. Yes.
You touched briefly on police overtime. Do you have a plan to cut down on police overtime, and how do you plan to do that?
Well, again, the police department reports to the mayor. After over 3 years in office, there should be a plan to reduce police overtime. Instead, every year, the council is asked to budget for police overtime, and then even that budget is overspent, this year by millions. So there's obviously either, as I said before, mismanagement or not an appropriate budget estimate in the beginning. If that's what it really takes, if there's nothing that can be done to reduce police overtime, then that's the number that should be put in the budget in the first place in January, and ongoing revenues need to be identified to cover that cost, not one-time funds. The consequences of using one-time funds again, then again, then again, is what you see right here.
Do you think the city is spending enough on homelessness, and do you think the Trent shelter is sustainable? Would you purchase the building? Is there an alternate location you would look to?
I think the city is not spending in a smart way on homelessness, and the Trent shelter was a mistake. $13 million on an annual basis, and it didn't even have the basic infrastructure that it needed. And now to ask the city's street funds to pay for the bathrooms of a facility the city doesn't own makes no sense at all. So we've got to make a major course correction there. I am hopeful that there will be positive discussions about a regional homeless plan, city council and especially county commission coming together, unifying those funds, and then spending them in a smarter way. I think millions of dollars of resources are going into moving visibly homeless people from one place to another, from downtown to the Trent shelter, from the streets to the emergency rooms, or possibly into jail. But moving is not the solution. We need more permanent solutions, and those generally require a coordinated approach. So I've proposed a navigation center model where people are identified by name, assessed for the behavioral health or addiction or treatment that they need, and then a plan is created, and then there's accountability both for the system and the individual. I'll take one more question here.
It's stuff like the resolution tonight for city council about interim city employees. It seems that at times between the current mayor and city council there's been some tension. How would you, as mayor, handle your relationship with city council?
So I know that we've heard this narrative a lot about tension, but I haven't seen the tension in the budget situation. And maybe there should have been a little bit more of it, frankly, because when the process seems to be a little bit backward. It starts off well with the administration proposing a budget, the council making some adjustments and then passing that budget. But then we go months down the road and then find that we're millions of dollars outside of that budget. In particular, in May of this year, the city's own budget analyst told the council there was going to be a $500,000 surplus. A month and a half later, we're at an $8.8 million deficit. So there's something not right there about that process of putting that information forward to the council and the public. And I do believe that it is incumbent on the council to ask those questions and in fact, demand a balanced budget plan that they can react to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.